Hi, my name is Araya. I suffered from a serious illness when I was a kid and stopped growing as a result. Look at me. I'm in high school, but I look like I'm 10 years old. And you know what? It doesn't bother me at all. There are many advantages to looking like this. I especially love pranking people. One day, my friends and I decided to prank the new elementary school teacher. I pretended to be a student who got lost. My friend took me by the hand and brought me to the younger students. The teacher spent a long time trying to figure out who I was. The class was disrupted. The kids were noisy and watched me with interest. As a result, the teacher dragged me to the principal. That's how she found out I was a high school student. When the principal started scolding me, I used my biggest trump card. I made a cute face and tried to look like the cat from that one scene in Shrek. The teacher's heart melted, and she even asked the principal not to punish me. My friends and I spent the whole day laughing and celebrating the successful prank. One day, I decided to ride a kick scooter in a park after classes and noticed a commotion. I got closer and realized there was a cool show taking place in the middle of the park. A guy was masterfully throwing bottles into the air, catching them and twirling them around himself. There was a banner behind him. It turned out that a club was opening in our city soon. The guy was a bartender mixing different drinks. I decided to get a refreshing cocktail. When it was my turn, he looked down at me and smiled. "We have a delicious milkshake for kids like you." I'm actually an adult, but I'll gladly take that milkshake. The guy gave me the drink and the club's business card. There was an address and a website on it. At home, I opened the website and realized there were open vacancies in the club. They were looking for cleaners, waiters, and bartenders. I could work for them part-time even without any experience because they were prepared to teach the new workers. I had been inspired by the show in the park and immediately decided I wanted to know how to do that. The next day, I decided to go to the job interview. I was a perfect fit for the position. I was creative, funny, and sociable. That was what a perfect bartender was supposed to be like, right? But when I came to the club, something unpleasant happened. The security guards wouldn't let me in. They mistook me for a child. Only those older than 16 were allowed in. When I said I was there for an interview, they just laughed at me. Even making a cute face didn't help. I was rummaging in my backpack in search of my ID when the guy from the park suddenly came up to the club. When he found out that I was there for the job interview, he laughed as well. At that moment, I finally managed to find my ID. The guy realized that I was 17 and was absolutely stunned. "You know, you wouldn't fit in here anyway. You look too young and our customers might get concerned." He didn't let me say anything and went into the club. I stomped my foot in anger. That was so unfair. But, of course, I wasn't about to give up so easily. I pretended to leave and walked around the building. There was a back entrance on the other side of it, and the door was unlocked. I got inside, walked down a corridor, and got into the kitchen. A guy with an administrator badge was telling off the cooks. I managed to slip past them unnoticed. The other candidates were already standing in the hall. I quietly crept up to them and pretended to have walked through the front door. Then the administrator came out to us. He talked to everyone one by one, but he simply didn't notice me. Just imagine, he just looked past me and moved on to the next candidate. I tugged on his sleeve to get his attention. The administrator was surprised when he looked down and saw me. "Girl, what are you doing here?" The guy from the park came up to us. The name Dylan was written on his badge. "Sorry, it's my fault. I didn't let her in, but she somehow managed to get into the club." Before they could kick me out, I told the administrator that I dreamed of working for them. I listed my strengths and answered all their questions. I was glad they listened to me and didn't show me the door yet. The administrator talked to everyone and said the club would be special. Bartenders wouldn't just make drinks, but also come up with different show ideas. "I have to think. I'll call and tell you my decision tomorrow." Dylan walked us to the exit. While doing that, he told me in a whisper that I should have listened to him and not snuck into the club without permission. I didn't care what he thought though, and that was what I told him. The next morning, I woke up very early and started to wait for the call. Just imagine, I did get a call back. They offered to teach me and said I would be on probation. I was over the moon. After school, I ran to the club and looked triumphantly at the security guards that hadn't let me in the day before. However, once I walked in, I was in for an unpleasant surprise. Firstly, it turned out I would have to compete with two people for the bartender position, Ray and Courtney. Whoever did it better would be hired. Secondly, Dylan would be the one teaching us. What a nightmare. I shouldn't have been rude to him after all. The problems began right at the beginning. I couldn't reach the bar because of my height. Dylan didn't seem to notice. I had to look for something to stand on. By the time I got back, Ray and Courtney were already making latte art. Dylan didn't repeat the instructions to me, but I figured out how to do it anyway. I googled latte art, read several articles, and passed the test. On the first day, we studied coffee brewing, and on the second, we moved on to cocktails. Dylan still treated me badly. Ray wasn't paying any attention. I got along pretty well with Courtney, but she even managed to find a common language with that nasty Dylan. At some point, the administrator came again and announced our main task. You are to come up with an interesting idea for the opening day. The candidate with the best project has every chance of getting the job. You have a few days to prepare. Courtney and I left the club. We were heading the same way. We discussed the projects but didn't have any ideas yet. As we were passing by the mall, when Courtney suggested we go shopping. I wanted to buy new clothes, so I agreed. First, we went to look at the clothes for adults, but they were all too big for me. So we decided to look at the clothes for kids next. Then, that was when I heard someone crying nearby. A little boy was sitting on the floor and crying buckets. His parents were trying to calm him down, but nothing worked. I noticed a big teddy bear nearby and got a cool idea. I immediately unzipped it and quietly climbed inside. Hey boy, why are you crying? He stared at the talking bear, surprised. I talked to him a bit more and he calmed down. He didn't want to leave my side after that. After his family left, I got out of the bear and immediately realized something. But of course, I had an idea for the project. I could organize an animator show at the club. I could dress like a bear again, make drinks, and entertain people. A bunch of cool ideas immediately sprung up in my mind. I shared my thoughts with Courtney and asked her if she liked my idea. I'm not sure. I don't think they'll like it. After all, the club is for older kids and that seems childish. Her words made me doubt. At home, I hesitated a little more, but eventually decided to take a chance. I created a folder on my laptop and saved different ideas there. I spent half the night searching the internet and got inspired with various articles. As a result, I prepared a cool program for the evening. Of course, the selling point was me. Tell me, have you ever seen a bartender looking like a big, cute bear? Cool, right? I made a sketch of the costume and sent it to a sewing shop. They promised me it would be ready soon. While everyone was doing what Dylan told them to the next day, I was coming up with cool names for cocktails. When Dylan noticed it, he got angry and scolded me. I had to explain that it was for the project. Dylan pursed his lips in displeasure. He was so infuriating. I wanted to ask Courtney if she wanted to go home together again when I noticed something unexpected. She was chatting with Dylan. Not just chatting, but flirting. I didn't understand how anyone could like someone as boring as Dylan. Well, it was none of my business, of course. Finally, it was the weekend. I woke up early to stop by the sewing shop before work. The costume looked awesome, just like I'd imagined it. As I was leaving, I ran into Ray. It turned out that he lived nearby and happened to be passing by. We went to the club together. When we walked in, Courtney and Dylan were already there. I saw them spring apart. Courtney was biting her lips, and they seemed swollen. It became clear the two had been kissing. What did Courtney even see in him? I reminded myself that it was none of my business and focused on my work. My signature cocktails kept getting better by the day. I especially liked the bubblegum one. During the break, I decided to get some fresh air. I left the club and sat down on a bench. All of a sudden, I heard muffled voices. Dylan and the administrator were talking around the corner. I eavesdropped. She's no good and will definitely fail. She's also too brazen and sticks her nose where it doesn't belong. That jerk! Was he complaining about me to the administrator? What did I ever do to him? In any case, let her try. We'll look at her project and then decide. By the way, we were supposed to present our projects that evening. We had to walk into the administrator's office one at a time. We were sitting in the lounge area and putting the finishing touches on our programs. I finished faster than the others. I was terribly worried, but decided to go first anyway. I had just gotten out of my seat when Dylan accidentally knocked over a shaker and its contents spilled all over me. Luckily, the drink didn't get on my laptop. I asked everyone to wait and ran to the bathroom. My bubblegum cocktail had been in the shaker. It was terribly sticky, and I barely managed to get the bright pink stains out of my clothes. After that, I tried to get out of the bathroom, but the door wouldn't budge. What the hell? I pushed it again, but it wouldn't open. Had someone locked me in? Hey, let me out! Anybody? I'm here! No one heard me. I panicked, but quickly pulled myself together. There was always a way out. I looked at the big window. There was no way to open it. Only the small window was ajar. I tried to get out through it. Naturally, an adult would not have succeeded, but I was a girl with the figure and height of a child. So I succeeded. I told you there were advantages to looking like me. When I came back to the gym, it turned out no one had waited for me. Courtney had gone into the office first. As I got back, she was coming out of it, beaming and satisfied. I went after her. I was focused and confident. I had almost no doubt that my project would be chosen. But something was wrong. I started talking about my program, feeling confident. But the longer I talked, the deeper the administrator frowned. I felt a little uncomfortable. When I finished, there was silence in the office. The administrator was silent for a while and then asked the next candidate to come in. He didn't comment on my project at all. While Ray was in the office, I was terribly nervous. When the administrator came out to announce his decision, it only got worse. He paused and I wanted to kill him. Couldn't he see how nervous we were?
The winner is Courtney.
Courtney jumped up and screamed with joy. The administrator looked at me and frowned again.
And you won't get anywhere in life with such an attitude.
I felt wronged. Was my work really too childish? I had tried so hard and come up with such a cool idea. The administrator didn't say what Courtney's project was. He invited everyone to the opening night and said that we would see everything for ourselves. I congratulated Courtney and wandered home, lost in thought. I was really down. It felt like something wasn't right. The administrator couldn't have hated my project that much. All of a sudden, I had a terrible thought. What if Dylan had spilled the cocktail on me on purpose so that Courtney would go in first? Or maybe even helped her get the job? They were kind of together. It seemed very likely. Such an injustice made me furious. I sent an angry message to Dylan and told him everything I thought of him. That jerk soon replied and told me to lose with dignity. How could he call me brazen when he was acting like that? For the first time in a long time, I was really down and stayed at home. I didn't want to go anywhere. As usual, I tried to look at the bright side, but it was hard. I convinced myself that I didn't truly want to be a bartender, but it was a lie. I really wanted to. The evening before the club opened, Dylan suddenly called me. He was the last person I wanted to talk to, and I didn't answer. He dialed me a few more times, and then Ray suddenly texted me. He asked if I was at home. Soon, the doorbell rang. It was Ray and Dylan. What was he doing there? I wasn't about to let him in, but Ray convinced me to hear them out. When Courtney won, she was bursting with joy. We got to talking and she blabbed about her teddy bear project. I immediately remembered seeing you in the sewing workshop. Your costume had been sticking out of the case. It had been a bear as well. I told Dylan about it, and I immediately got suspicious. Our administrator had mentioned that you had stolen Courtney's idea, but according to Ray, the idea had originally been yours and Courtney had been the one to steal it. I was absolutely shocked. Had Courtney set me up? I immediately remembered telling her about my idea at the mall. While I had been working on my laptop in the lounge area, Courtney had been nearby as well. She could have easily copied the files. When I told Ray about being locked in the bathroom, Ray also remembered something. While I had been trying to get the stains out, Courtney had gone off somewhere for a while. She must have locked me up to present her project first. Dylan suggested we go to the club at once and get to the bottom of things. I agreed, but didn't understand why he was helping me. You said that I was good for nothing and too arrogant. Dylan said that he hadn't been talking about me. We were talking about Courtney. She kept failing during our lessons and trying to get the job through me. Whoa. It turned out I had misunderstood everything and been paranoid for nothing. When we arrived at the club, we saw the administrator arguing with Courtney. He was asking her about various details of the project. He wanted to know how best to arrange and organize everything. I hadn't written such details down, so Courtney didn't know about them. The administrator looked angry, but she just stayed silent. That was when I intervened and explained everything. After that, Dylan told the administrator about Courtney's lies and the idea being mine. Courtney was kicked out in disgrace, and I was hired in her place. To say that I was happy would be to say nothing. The long-awaited opening took place the next evening. The show went great. The visitors loved the bear costume. The animation program and presentation of drinks went without a hitch. Ray had also been hired, and he was helping me. At the end of the show, everyone wanted to see the real me. I took off my costume, and the club guests gasped. As usual, I was mistaken for a child. I had to explain that I was already 17 and just looked like that. Ray and Dylan filled in for me at the bar, and I sat down on the couch to take a break. People kept coming up to me and asking about everything. Chatting with the guests was very fun. The opening of the club was successful. I got the job I wanted and became the club's trump card, the one its owners had been looking for. Dylan and I get along now. I've gotten used to working with him and Ray, and we've become a great team. I like to make drinks. My bubblegum cocktail is the most popular one on the menu. But most of all, I like to pretend to be a little girl and prank the new club visitors. What is your dream job? Tell us in the comments down below.